Well, I think what Gene Smith said was he has a hard time imagining that they would do it without fans. Uh, you know, is if it's not safe to have students in, it's kind of all or nothing response, I guess. If it's not safe to have students on campus in close proximity with one another, 70,000 people on a given day, including staff and, people coming, going from campus, over 50 to 70,000 people every day. Could you then have uh, an empty stadium game with really, would that be safe? And I think in Gene Smith's mind, what he's always said was, until I can get a clarification from the experts on what is safe and what's not safe, it's kind of hard to picture that and predict that. I think Ryan Day is taking the more measured approach of saying, well, it's still a little ways off. If we can get everybody back here by July 15th, which is 3 months from now, it's April 17th. Okay. It's still 3 months away. Maybe there'll be some advancements. Maybe this thing will be stamped out a little bit to the point where it would be safe to go back and resume some kind of normalcy with our society. Impossible to predict the future, though. So I guess we just all need to keep an open mind is probably the best thing that we can say at this point, because I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, but I think what we have on our side is time. That's what we have on our side right now, is every day it's moving one way or the other. And the more days that we can put on top of one another that it is a positive day, the better it's going to be.
And I'll just chime in on what Dr. Steve had to say. Day is basically said, any football is better than none, but only if it's safe. Gene, as Steve said, was saying, well, if it's not safe for fans, why is it safe for the players? And he also mentioned, I would have to talk to people and learn my blind spot on that. So it seems like he has some leeway that he could maybe listen to, because he did initially say, like, I thought, games with no fans, that will work. But then he began thinking more about it. And that's when you're like, well, if it's not safe for the fans, why is it safe for the players? And, then he needs to learn his blind spot, talking to the experts. And that's where it keeps going back to. They're going to rely on the experts, and that's medical experts, government experts. Day would gladly play with no fans because he wants to play. And like you said, any football is better than none. So take that for any scenario you want to throw out there. If it's playing 6 games starting in November or pushing it into the spring, any football is better than none. And I think we probably all agree with them. And yeah, you want it to be safe as possible. Remember, it's football. And how safe is it?
And of course, Ryan Day wants to play with that roster. Yeah, he wants to play football. He wants to get that team out there.
With Justin Fields, why wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely. Todd's asking, I'll just throw it out. He had a couple general recruiting questions. One involves Damon Payne from Belleville and his recruitment. And also he lists a number of blue chip prospects there. We don't need to take them one by one, but just in regards to your thoughts about the probabilities of getting the majority of those guys.
I think Payne is maybe trending a little bit away from Ohio State right now, but like these guys, J.C. Latham, JT Tuamaloau, we'll say, and Emeka Bukwe, the receiver, and Jagger Burton. But like those first 3 guys right now in 24/7's own rankings are all top 10 players. And Ohio State already has 2 commits from 2 top 10 players in those rankings, and Donovan Jackson, who is 8 or 10 or something like that, and Jack Sawyer, who's in the top 5. So right now, with Latham and Tuimaloa and Emeka Bekwu, that's looking at half of the top 10 could possibly be Buckeyes, and then a few more beyond that as well, and Jagger Burton, and I think Derek Davis there. But this is the time of year where everybody's always like, oh, if they get this guy, it never happens. But those first 3 guys all seem to be like leaning Ohio State's way, but you're still going to ask 2 guys from Washington to come all the way to Ohio State. Now, granted, they got G. Scott last year to do that. So it's not unheard of, but I mean, rarely do things go ideally in recruiting. And even if they get those three, say the top three guys, who knows? They could end up being ranked in the top, they drop out of the top 50, drop out of the top 100. Now you're like, well, I guess it'll have to do. Although if there's no spring camps or no summer camps to re-rate players, like there may not be a whole lot of movement on the recruiting rankings for a while.
Yeah, I'm looking at the targets list here. JT Tui Malao from Eastside Catholic. I think that's the same school of G. Scott, and they're going to push really hard for him. And imagine putting him on one side and Jack Sawyer on the other. And what would that do for you there? Tony Grimes, a big-time cornerback out of Virginia. He's a top 10 guy. And Amika Egbuka from Washington as well, a wide receiver. To add, the idea that you would add more wide receivers on top of the 4 that you signed this past year is, again, Rich just keep getting richer and richer and richer. And, I don't know what to say. When you add top 10, top 25, top 50 players year after year after year, it's going to be hard to lose football games at that point. It's kind of, how do you not win games unless you just commit like 5 turnovers or something stupid? So I don't want to say it's foolproof, but it certainly helps when you have bigger, stronger, faster X's and O's. That's when you win football games.
Yep, you got the Jimmies and Joes in place. Then the X's and O's are easy to maneuver past that. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate the time. I hope everybody out there that watches us on a weekly basis understand that these guys have a ton to do, a lot going on, and they donate at least an hour to us each and every week to talk Ohio State football. So please check out the work of Steve Hellwagon on Bucknuts, Tony Gerdeman on the ozone.net.